Her name was Vanessa Hart, and she had the kind of beauty that made time stop. I met her 3 years ago at a professional networking event downtown. The room was full of people pretending to be confident, chasing handshakes and fake smiles. Then she walked in wearing a white dress that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Every man in the room noticed her, but somehow her eyes landed on me. We talked for 20 minutes, though I barely remember a word she said. She spoke about architecture, luxury design, and rich clients who spent money like water. I should have known right there what she valued most. But her voice had this calm authority that made everything sound meaningful. She asked about my job, my company, and the projects I managed. When I said I worked in commercial construction, she smiled politely. Not impressed, just calculating. Still, I felt proud, as if her attention validated everything I had built. We exchanged numbers, and the next day she texted first. That small gesture made me think she was different from the rest. We went out for dinner that weekend at a rooftop restaurant she picked. She ordered wine that cost more than my entire meal. I didn't care. I was mesmerized by the way she looked at me, like I was the only person in the world. It felt good to be seen, even if I didn't realize she was really looking through me. After that, we were inseparable. Every text, every call, every glance drew me deeper in. She made me believe I was building something meaningful. The chemistry was undeniable: laughter, late nights, endless conversations. But every talk somehow circled back to my work, my salary, my goals. She wanted to know everything about my 5-year plan, my company's growth, my bonuses. At the time, I thought she admired my ambition. Now I know she was auditing my potential. When I earned a promotion with a $15,000 raise, she reacted like she won a prize. Her eyes lit up, her tone softened, and she called me the man of her dreams. It didn't feel manipulative then. It felt like love. She told me she believed in equality, independence, and partnership. But equality meant splitting bills when it suited her, and sharing my success when it didn't. We moved in together after a year. She insisted on finding an apartment in an expensive neighborhood. The rent was almost triple what I had paid before, but she said it reflected our lifestyle. I agreed because I wanted her to be happy. That's what I told myself. I was proud of how far I'd come, proud to give her a life she could show off. But slowly, I started to realize something unsettling. Her affection grew stronger when my paycheck did. Her love seemed tied to numbers, not moments. Still, I ignored it. Because love makes you deaf to reason and blind to warning signs. And by the time I finally noticed, I was already too far in to turn back. Vanessa loved to talk about the future, but only in numbers and milestones. She asked what my next promotion looked like, how much it paid, and what came after that. At first, I thought it was motivation. Later, I realized it was measurement. She treated my success like a stock she had invested in, tracking every fluctuation. If I mentioned a coworker who lost a contract, she would go silent. If I talked about bonuses or raises, she smiled like I'd just told her she won the lottery. Her interest was conditional, perfectly aligned with the size of my paycheck. Still, I told myself it was normal. Every couple talks about the future, right? But with Vanessa, it wasn't about dreams, it was about lifestyle. One night, she told me she wanted us to move to her city for better opportunities. I hesitated because my life, my friends, and my roots were here. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "It'll be good for both of us." I believed her. I got a job offer 3 hours away, 95,000 base, bonuses on top. She celebrated like we'd hit the jackpot. We spent weekends apartment hunting, but her focus was on luxury, not practicality. She built spreadsheets comparing neighborhoods, rent prices, and designer furniture stores. It wasn't partnership, it was planning her next social image. We moved into a high-rise apartment for $2,800 a month. I insisted we split rent evenly. She agreed, but complained about her expenses. I covered more than my share, telling myself it was temporary. She posted pictures of our place online, tagging every expensive brand in sight. Comments poured in, praising our perfect home. She soaked up every word. But at night, when I came home tired from work, she complained that I didn't take her out enough. I was juggling deadlines and overtime just to keep up with our lifestyle. She said she missed the excitement we used to have. I didn't realize excitement to her meant spending money. When I asked her to help with budgeting, she rolled her eyes. "Why are you being so uptight?" she said. "It's not like we're broke." But I was the one paying the difference every month. Her version of independence ended where the bills began. Her phone was filled with online carts, designer wish lists, and restaurant bookings. It wasn't love, it was performance. And I played along because I didn't want to lose her. Every warning sign was flashing, but I kept turning them off. I told myself she just liked nice things. I told myself she'd change once things got serious. But deep down, a voice whispered that I was building a dream house on sand. I ignored it, pretending everything was fine. I didn't know that pretending would soon cost me my dignity and almost everything I'd worked for. The first time I met Vanessa's family, I understood exactly where her mindset came from. Her father, Richard, greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He wore a tailored suit and a gold watch that screamed debt, not success. He worked in insurance, but spoke as if he ran Wall Street. Every word from him dripped with fake confidence and hidden insecurity. Her mother, Linda, was worse. She hadn't worked a day in 15 years, but called herself an investor in elegance. She bragged about designer handbags as if they were assets. The house looked expensive, but it felt hollow. 6 bedrooms, a pool, luxury furniture, everything financed, nothing real. They treated me politely at first, but the judgment came in small doses. Richard joked about blue-collar guys who didn't understand real money. Linda asked when I planned to get a proper job in finance or law. I laughed it off, but every word landed like a slap. Vanessa didn't defend me. She just smiled and told me not to take it personally. "That's just how they are," she said. Her younger sister, Amber, lived there rent-free at 29. She spent her days posting coffee photos and calling herself a content creator. Her follower count couldn't fill a classroom, but she acted like a celebrity. The entire family was a performance, loud, shallow, and obsessed with appearances. And I convinced myself Vanessa was different. She had a real job. She paid her bills. She seemed grounded compared to them. That illusion kept me hooked. Every family dinner was a silent test of my worth. Richard loved asking how much I made, pretending it was casual conversation. Linda compared every restaurant I suggested to the ones they usually go to. Amber scrolled through her phone, only looking up to mention luxury brands. I told myself I was imagining it. But the truth was clear. I would never be enough for them unless I earned more. One night, after dinner, I overheard Richard bragging to a neighbor. He called me, the construction guy dating Vanessa, like it was an embarrassing secret. I should have walked away right then. But I didn't want to lose her. I wanted to prove them wrong. I worked longer hours, took extra projects, and brought home more money. Vanessa noticed the difference, but said nothing about the effort. Instead, she told her mother that things were finally improving. They saw my grind as validation, that I was becoming the man they deserved. Not the man Vanessa loved, the man who could afford their standards. That night when we got home, she kissed me and said, "You're finally getting there." I smiled, but something inside me cracked. It wasn't love holding us together anymore. It was image, pride, and pressure, and I was drowning in all three. I spent weeks planning the perfect proposal. I wanted it to be something unforgettable, something real. A mountain overlook, sunset, a ring I'd saved months to buy. The hike was long, but when we reached the top, she smiled like it was magic. I got down on one knee, heart pounding, hands shaking. She cried, said yes, and kissed me like the world stopped spinning. It felt like the start of forever. We called our families from the mountaintop, laughing, crying, dreaming. That night, she looked at the ring and went quiet. I thought maybe she didn't like the style. Instead, she said we should exchange it for something more us. I agreed to look together, thinking it was harmless. At the jewelry store, she pointed to a massive diamond that cost $12,000. I told her it was over my budget. She smiled and said, "Let be modern, we'll split it 50-50. Her tone made it sound empowering, fair, equal. But I knew she couldn't really afford her half. Still, I gave in. She was thrilled, called it our first decision as a real couple. I told myself it was progress. It was manipulation wrapped in romance. After that, wedding planning began, and the numbers got insane. Her parents insisted on a country club venue, live band, gourmet catering. Every idea I suggested was labeled cheap or uninspired. I tried to reason with them, but Vanessa always sided with her family. She said, "It's our one special day, don't you want it perfect?" Perfect apparently cost $30,000, my portion alone. I started taking overtime, side projects, anything to cover the expenses. She complained that I was always working. But every time I mentioned scaling back, she accused me of not caring enough. We finally settled on a venue that was still absurdly expensive. The stress was eating me alive, but I kept going. Then came the engagement party. 60 guests, fine dining, everything polished and extravagant. My parents drove 5 hours to attend. They were proud, glowing, dressed in their best clothes. Vanessa's family arrived like royalty, dripping in designer labels. For once, the night felt warm, peaceful, even joyful. My best friend Derek gave a beautiful toast about love and loyalty. Everyone was smiling, glasses raised, hearts full. Then Vanessa stood up. She thanked everyone, then paused. "Please don't buy gifts yet," she said. "I still need some time to be sure about everything." The room froze. Laughter died. My parents looked heartbroken. I sat there in disbelief, as whispers filled the air. She sat down like nothing happened, whispering, "We'll talk later." That car ride home was silent, heavy, endless. When we got inside, I asked her why. She said she was just being honest. I told her she'd humiliated me. She said, "Would you rather I lied?" That was it. I looked at her and said, "If you're unsure after all this, then I'm done." And in that moment, the future I'd built in my head shattered completely. She started crying the moment I said it was over. Her tears came fast, rehearsed, perfectly timed for sympathy. She said I was overreacting, that I was too emotional. I said she humiliated me in front of everyone I cared about. She said I was twisting her words. Then she begged, promised she'd never do it again. She claimed she was nervous, confused, not ready for pressure. But I was done listening. You can't embarrass someone like that and call it honesty. I slept in the guest room that night, staring at the ceiling. I knew I'd never love her the same again. The next morning, I told her I was moving out. Her face turned from shock to rage in seconds. She said I was making a mistake, that I'd regret this forever. I didn't argue. I packed my things in silence and walked out the door. That should have been the end, but her family had other plans. Her father, Richard, called that same afternoon. He didn't ask about the breakup. He asked about the wedding deposits. He wanted to know if I'd still pay my share. I hung up before he finished his sentence. Then her mother left a voicemail, calling me immature and weak. She said Vanessa was out of my league, and that I'd never handle a real woman. Her sister, Amber, posted stories about toxic men who fear strong women. It was laughable if it hadn't been so pathetic. Vanessa told people I had anger issues, that I was controlling and manipulative. She played the victim, and I became the villain in her rewritten version. Friends called asking what really happened. I only said, "It's over, please respect my privacy." No explanations, no drama, no defense. I moved into a small, furnished apartment across town. I left her the furniture, the dishes, even the engagement ring. It wasn't worth fighting for. It was the most expensive lesson I'd ever paid for. The first few months were rough. I buried myself in work, lifting weights, rebuilding my focus. Every time I felt angry, I reminded myself I'd escaped. 6 months later, I landed a senior position with a huge pay raise. A year after that, I was managing entire construction teams across the state. The irony didn't escape me. My success started the day I let her go. 2 years later, I opened my own consultancy. It took off faster than I ever imagined. I was earning more than double what I'd made before. And I was finally happy. Then I met Sarah, smart, kind, grounded. A nurse practitioner who owned her own home and didn't care about status. She asked about my day, not my income. She made life peaceful again. Every moment with her reminded me what love was supposed to feel like. Real, calm, and honest. And for the first time in years, I knew I was finally free. 3 years passed before I heard her name again. Life was calm, steady, successful, everything I once dreamed of. Then one morning, I saw a message on LinkedIn from her father, Richard. He wrote like nothing had ever happened. "Hey Ethan, hope you're doing well. I have a business proposal for us." I almost laughed out loud. His company was collapsing, and he wanted to use my success as a lifeline. I ignored the message and blocked him immediately. 2 weeks later, a text appeared from an unknown number. It was Vanessa. She said she needed to talk, that it was important. Part of me wanted to delete it, but curiosity won. We agreed to meet at a downtown coffee shop. When I walked in, I barely recognized her. The woman who once glowed with confidence looked broken and tired. Her designer shine was gone, replaced by cheap fabric and dark circles. She started crying the moment she saw me. She said her family had lost everything. Richard's business had gone bankrupt. The house was in foreclosure. Her mother's credit cards were maxed out. Amber still lived at home, unemployed and clueless. Vanessa said she'd been through hell and had finally realized what mattered. She told me she'd heard about my success, about my company's growth. She said we could help each other. Her voice trembled, but not from emotion, from desperation. Then she said it clearly. "I know we could be great together now that you're stable and successful." I sat there silent, watching her drown in her own regret. Every word was a reminder of the woman I once thought I loved. I waited until she finished her story before I spoke. "Thank you," I said. Her eyes lit up for a second. She thought I was forgiving her. I leaned forward and smiled. "Thank you for humiliating me that night." She froze. I told her that her betrayal had saved me from a life I didn't deserve. That because of her, I'd learned the value of self-respect. She started crying again, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "No, Vanessa, you made your choice. You taught me who you are." She whispered that she'd changed, that she could be different. I stood up and looked her in the eyes. "You once said you needed more time to be sure. Well, now I'm sure." Her tears fell as I walked away. 3 days later, Richard called my phone directly. He begged me to give him subcontracting work, said he respected my work ethic. The same man who mocked my blue-collar job now wanted my help. I told him the same thing I told his daughter, nothing. A week later, I drove past their old neighborhood. A bright yellow foreclosure sign stood in front of their mansion. It was poetic, really. Karma doesn't always come fast, but it never forgets its way home. I sat in my car, watching that empty house fade in the rearview mirror. The same place where I once felt small now looked meaningless. Money, status, appearances, none of it could save them. And for the first time, I understood what true freedom felt like. It wasn't revenge that gave me peace. It was knowing I'd walked away before their darkness consumed me. Sarah was waiting at home, smiling when I walked through the door. Her hug felt like everything I'd been chasing all those years. Not luxury, not validation, just peace. I thought about my father's old words, the ones I used to shrug off. Respect is earned, but self-respect is never negotiable. He was right. It took losing everything I thought I wanted to find what I really needed. Vanessa gave me pain, but that pain built the man I became. Now, when I think about her, I don't feel bitterness. I just feel grateful. Because sometimes, the cruelest heartbreak becomes the kindest rescue. And the best revenge is simply living well, with nothing to prove to anyone.